Well, hello, beautiful people. It's me, Sam, from your friendly neighborhood at Dunder Film Paper Company. Huge review here. I'm super excited for it. That movie is Blue Beetle. Look, at the beginning of the summer, I was super excited for it. A lot of people said it was going to be terrible, but I had hope. And then I had even more hope after the reviews came out. They were surprisingly really strong. And did it live up to the hype? Yes, I absolutely love this film. Now I understand why they moved it to theaters instead of HBO Max. Because if you don't know, this movie was supposed to come out on HBO Max. And they were like, wow, this is surprisingly very good. Let's put it out in theaters. Yeah, this is hands down easily one of my personal favorite DC movies and easily one of their better films in quite some time. Yeah, as much as I loved James Gunn's Suicide Squad, I thought it was great. I just don't feel that movie is. You could really. I mean, I guess it is part of the DCU movies, but like for instance, Black Adam, I thought that was a very mediocre, very underwhelming. I thought Shazam: Fury of the Gods, although the first hour for me, I had a lot of fun. I thought the second hour or so was just terrible. Flash, although it had some great moments, overall I thought that movie was very disappointing, and I left feeling just like okay, it's okay. And I was nervous for Blue Beetle, and it delivered. Blue Beetle is the kind of movie that DC should have been making a long time ago. I love that it's a throwback to the 80s, even to the 90s, and even to the early 2000s superhero movies. They went back to basics with this. And although you could say that certain scenes or certain aspects of the movie are cookie cutter, like it's an origin story, what makes this movie so unique, what makes it so beautiful, is the family aspect. And that's the best part of the whole movie. It's the family. You love them. Like, whether you're a Latino or not, you have family members very similar to these characters. I just wanted to spend an entire movie with them, hanging out, joking around, messing with each other. You know, like, the movie starts and it you don't really get into the whole Blue Beetle stuff until about nearly half an hour into the movie. But until then, I completely forgot that I was watching a superhero movie because I was so invested in these characters and this family drama and this family life, and the humor was just making everyone in the theater laugh hysterically. My theater, like, they were eating it up. They loved the film. It was a packed house. You could tell everyone was enjoying it. It's crazy how you felt the buzz in the theater in this movie for Blue Beetle, who no one really knows about, and then you compare it to a packed house when I went to watch The Flash, Flash is a pretty well known character, and there, like, Blue Beetle had 10 times more of that pop in the air than The Flash did. Speaking of the family, everyone has a moment to shine here. I don't know his name, but the main character, he's charming, he's charismatic, he's funny. He is a leading man. He was meant to play this role. You love him, and I mean, he's the reason why he's the heart of Cobra Kai, and now why they chose him for this movie, because he's just fantastic. His little chemistry with his sister, his whole family, in fact, they all have amazing chemistry. Now, a lot of people I saw were complaining that George Lopez was like, they were like, he looks like he's gonna be annoying. Absolutely not. He stole every scene he was in. He was funny in the right moments, and he was like, whenever it was meant, like, for him to be serious and deliver a very dramatic line or an important message that Hyman needed to hear, he delivered it. And I've always loved George Lopez. I mean, ever since the George Lopez show, yeah, he's always felt like it's strange, but in many ways at least to me, I've always felt like he's that uncle. And it's crazy how they actually cast him as the uncle in here. And he's perfect as the role. Like he's not over the top and he's not very underwhelming. He's just perfect. Yeah. And look, here's the thing. This movie isn't overall a great film. And it's a pretty simple, it's a pretty basic in terms of storyline. It's a pretty basic superhero movie. But what makes it so special is that the core of it, the heart, the family. And I have to admit, there are a couple of moments that, even myself, like, uh, I was tearing up. I got emotional. It got me emotional. And maybe there's just like a little bit of bias because I am Latino, but there were a lot of inside jokes and just little small details that really only Latino families would understand. And I love that. And it was such a very special experience to actually see Latino life represented on the big screen, in a big superhero movie. Now there are things that I kind of questioned. I was like, well, why did they do this or that? I feel like they could have gone big with this. But I had to remember that they initially made this to go on HBO Max, and the budget wasn't as big as it could have been. And so, with what they had, they did the best that they could, because I admit there are some cheesy moments. There are some cheesy lines of dialogue. There are moments that the film feels like a pretty much straight to HBO Max or straight to a Netflix kind of film. And even the humor, like, although most of the time the humor works, there are some moments scattered throughout that the humor just didn't work for me. Now, other people were laughing in the theater, so obviously it worked for them, but it just didn't work for me. And I feel like for most people, it'll hit and it won't hit. The action scenes are solid. They're good. And whenever he's in the Blue Beetle, it's pretty awesome. The villain is pretty cookie cutter. Susan Sarandon, I love her. She's great in everything she's in. I just felt like she was severely underwritten, but she's fine. She does the best that she can. Now, the villain that I liked was her main henchman. He was really good, and I was I couldn't figure out where I'd seen him. My wife had to remind me, but he was one of the main villains in the movie Apocalypto. Which you haven't seen that, it's great, and I thought he was really good here. And without spoiling anything, for most of the film, you think he's just this cool badass, villain, and then there's something that happens and something that Jaime learns. Once again, I'm not gonna ruin it, but you kind of look back. It's like a flashback, and you kind of understand where this guy is coming from. You understand why he's doing what he's doing, and I like that. And I like the moments with Jaime and his father, and they're, man, it was a gut punch. Not gonna lie. Overall, how do I feel about this movie? It was better than I thought it was gonna be. Yeah, and I think this movie deserves to be seen. And if you're a DC fan and you're like, oh, what's the point? Watch it, because apparently, James Gunn's, it's still unsure what's gonna happen with this character. And I cannot wait to see these characters again. I think if this movie gets good word of mouth, which I believe it is, because on Rotten Tomatoes, you have it's the high 70s critics, and then low 90s audiences. So most audience are loving it. I think this could get a word of mouth where people are saying, wow, for a DC movie, this is actually good. This is actually really good. And you know what? I can't wait to watch it again. So guys, look, watch it. Give it a chance. I'm telling you, give it a chance. It's going to surprise you. It's going to surprise you. You're going to laugh, you're going to cheer, and you might even cry. But watch Blue Beetle. I'm feeling a very light 8.